Hello, everybody. The Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the New York Times, Saturday, June 27th and 26th. Your reader is Joe Gibbs. How is everyone doing? I just want to thank the Niagara Frontier Reading Service. Yesterday they had a dinner for all the volunteers. It was very nice. They had a band, nice food, a lot of very nice prizes on the raffles. And everyone on their broadcast should be thanking them for the nice opportunity to do what we do and for the thank you they gave us yesterday. That was awesome. And I look forward to doing this for a long time. There were some people there that had anniversaries of 5, 10, 15, and 25 years reading, which is great. And you just heard a little beginning of Layla from Eric Clapton. And why did I play him to start our day? And I'm going to tell you, we're going to do a little question answer here. So obviously Eric Clapton, very famous in music, and George Harrison, very famous in music. But what was their connection? They had another connection besides the fact that they're both musicians and had awesome careers. What was the connection of Eric Clapton and George Harrison? Think about it. Try not to Google it. Does anyone know what that answer is? And at the end of this show, I am going to tell you what that music fact is for the day. All right? Before we dig into this beautiful New York Times information, I'm going to wet the whistle and get some Pepsi Zero. This is probably my fifth one of the day. Hold a second. It is a true problem. It's a true problem. All right. So let's take a look here. What are you doing if you're lonely? No one waiting by your side. You've been running, hiding much too long. You know it's just foolish pride. All right. What do we have here? Headline from History. Is New York polite to tourists? They say yes, no, and maybe. June 27th, 1960. A Times reporter spent a week asking visitors how they had been treated in New York City. He found a range of opinion but made some conclusions. New Yorkers are generally helpful and sometimes courteous, but they are often helpful and courteous without being friendly, he wrote. It's the most courteous city I've ever been in, said a woman from Alexandria, Virginia. A man from Cincinnati, I find the hospitality rather gratifying, but a man who had moved to the city from Michigan was shaken by people's indifference to one another. It's an existence, not a real life, he said. There were contradictions in these and other answers, but the contradictions were true, which is that one would expect a city of 7,650,000 individuals, the Times wrote. Yeah, I'm sure you get a bit of everything, right? Isn't that from most places? All right. Might we suggest 4 weekend recommendations from around the newsroom? How about, if you're bored, you go catch an off-Broadway show. This summer in New York has delivered a long lineup of productions in smaller venues behind Broadway, including Camping, a time-skipping romance set entirely in the interior of a tent, and Music City, a jukebox musical with audience seated inside a Midtown Manhattan basement turned Nashville bar. Find a guide to 8 new and remounted shows at newyorktimes.com/theater. We are this August going tent camping. That'd be the first time I've done that in some time, but my air mattress will be mega thick. Mega. Another idea, another suggestion, zooming in on powerful photos. At the new National Geographic Museum of Exploration in Washington, visitors can see the signature photographs that have long defined the magazine. Among them is Amy Vitale's 2018 portrait of a caretaker comforting Sudan. the last male northern white rhinoceros during his final moments at Conservancy in Kenya. To find out more, you go to NewYorkTimes.com/arts, and there was a picture of that rhinoceros, and he is absolutely huge. His head and neck is the size of the man. Another one, planning a dream Italian getaway. This is my bucket list. It has one thing on it. One, a trip to Italy. That is it. I have one thing on my bucket list. I'm going to tell you one more time. Trip to Italy. With so many tempting destinations within Italy, it can be a real challenge to narrow down the list of possibilities. That's true. A handy quiz from the travel desk can help make some of those decisions for you. Are you a first-time visitor looking for a relaxing vacation amid idyllic vineyards, or a returning traveler looking to get your steps in among the islands of Sicilian volcanic archipelago? Start planning your itinerary through the country at NewYorkTimes.com/travel. Or prepping for a certain wedding. New details confirmed by the New York Times point toward a multi-day affair next weekend at Madison Square Garden in New York City for Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding. Are you out of your mind? Your invitation may have gotten lost in the mail, but there's still plenty of ways to celebrate, perhaps by making a friendship bracelet to commemorate the festivities, or by crafting a playlist of Miss Swift's most swoon-worthy hits. Love Story from Enchanted and So High School are all required listening. Read up on the wedding plans at NewYorkTimes.com/New York region. That's crazy. Okay, this says here to help. 5 titles to stream before they leave Netflix in July. Gilmore Girls. Oh, my God. I'm going to have to tell my daughter. Gilmore Girls leaving Netflix in July. What are we going to do? The comedy drama has been one of Netflix's standbys for years, so popular that the service even reunited the characters for a 2016 miniseries. That will stay, but the original series will go, at least for now, and that's a shame. Its pleasures are numerous, including the rat-tat-tat dialogue, the chemistry between the stars, Alexis Bledel pictured left and Lauren Graham right, and their parade of potential bias. It's a picture of them from the show, a little illustration. The Great Waldo Pepper. July 1st, Robert Redford reteamed with George Roy Hill, the director of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and The Sting, for this 1975 combination of character drama and aviation adventure. But they did not seek to replicate the crowd-pleaser energy of those earlier collaborations. This story of a World War I pilot who spends the late 20s making a living as a brainstorming flyer takes on a darker and more deliberate tone. Next one, Slapshot. Hill moved up Pepper by reuniting with the Redfords' Butch Cassidy and Sting co-star Paul Newman in the 77 delightfully unapologetic body sports comedy from the new screenwriter Nancy Dowd. In one of Newman's juiciest roles of the 70s, he played good old Reggie Dunlop, coach and player of the Charlestown Chiefs, a Pennsylvania hockey team that offsets its low level of play with some beautiful, cheerful violence. Next on the list is Night of the Living Dead. Few films have proven as influential, certainly within the world of horror, as this wonder from George Romero, which set his template for low-budget genre production. His crew of industrial filmmakers shoot in the off-the-cuff newsreel style that makes the zombie apocalypse feel observed rather than created. Nearly 60 years on, the movie retains its ability to shock and scare. I don't even know if I've ever seen that. And then the last one is Sneaky Pete. Good old Sneaky Pete. Seasons 1 to 3, July 10. Created by David Shore and Bryan Cranston, this Amazon original stars Giovanni Ribisi as Marius, a con artist who is released from prison and steps into the life of his cellmate Pete, whom he impersonates to take advantage of Pete's long-lost grandparents. Oh, very nice. Great idea. Ribisi is perfected in the lead, while a cast of characters shine in support. That's really good. I don't think I've ever heard of Sneaky Pete. I almost want to watch some Sneaky Pete. I want to see if he's going to do to those grandparents. Isn't that a shame? Yep. I know where I'm going at the end. What do we got now? What do we have here in our wonderful New York Times? Let's see. Wow. This says, cooling off at the Canal Saint-Martin, which has become popular swimming spots in Paris. Temperatures in France have leaped to the highest levels ever recorded in June, 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Want to see what this says? Anybody? Don't all yell all at once to me. All right. Anybody in the class want to hear about the heat in France? And there's a big illustration of them jumping in from this ledge into the water. This canal area. They're all jumping in from there just to get away from the 104 degrees. So this says, perched on the cobblestone bank of Canal Saint-Martin in Paris, watching his children whoop and shout as they splashed into the murky water, Stephanie Galami looked like a rare person who'd beaten the heat. But in the new normal of scorching hot Paris summers, he said, any victory would be fleeting. It's going to get worse every year, said Galami, a 44-year-old computer engineer. It's very worrying because we're already at the limit what's bearable, which temperatures across France soaring to the highest levels ever recorded in June. More than 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Thousands of people are turning to extreme measures, jumping into canals, rivers, and other waterways for relief. It can be a deadly choice. 40 people have drowned in heat wave-related accidents between June 18th and June 23rd, according to the French government. What? That's not good. I think we need to, this maybe I'm, speaking out of turn here, but I think we need to build some pools in France. 40 people between June 18th and June 23rd have died getting out of the heat by jumping in waters they should not have jumped in. Take a cold shower, people. Many in France still recall the summer of 2003. Listen to this. When nearly 15,000 people in the country, most of them older, died in a freak heat wave. 15,000 people. That prompted recurring debates about how to weatherproof French society. The ecologist, a Green Party, is proposing paid time off for those most exposed to climate disruptions, while decades of cultural resistance to air conditioning seems finally to be on the wane. Yet the mismatch between tropical heat and northern European infrastructure remains stark. In Paris, the Louvre Museum and the Eiffel Tower closed early several days this week. Near Toulouse in southwest France, the authorities shut down a nuclear plant because the water temperature in the river Garonne used to cool its reactor was dangerously hot. So not even the water they're using to cool everything is doable. While swimming in the Canal Saint-Martin is off limits, except for a short stretch that is roped off and patrolled by lifeguards, residents and visitors are taking matters into their own hands, whether it's leaping off its cast iron bridges or cavorting with brightly covered floats. They have turned much of this 3-mile waterway into an urban oasis, not to mention a symbol of mild insurrection. Wow. Mr. Galami said he didn't worry about safety. He kept a close eye on the children, and he said city officials regularly tested water quality in the canal, which once supplied Paris with grain loaded on barges. Police cars rolled past, their officers doing nothing to stop the crowds from swimming or jumping. The kids are happy, said Mr. Galami, referring to the daily visit with his family since the heat enveloped Paris last weekend. They stay at home in the evening. They go to the canal. It's like a holiday. Still, he said, a disquieting sense that the prolonged nature of this heat wave, the second of the summer and it's not July, dramatized the untenable nature of climate change. School, hospitals, and houses in France are not equipped for long stretches of extreme heat, a reality that became vividly clear this week as the country wilted under persistent, unforgiving sun. Wow. So there is definitely, in need of some pools. Don't you think? Get these kids some pools. The real issue that should concern us in the duration of crisis in this event, Mr. Lecornu said. He noted that under the most dire of three forecasts by Météo France, the National Weather Service, the heat could persist for weeks and carry us through much of July. The other two forecasts call for temperatures return to more normal levels within a few days or a week. The Prime Minister said he welcomed proposals to make France more resilient in the face of extreme heat. Paris has already done some things to cool its streets, including planting trees and installing water spray stations. Other ideas like making buildings more habitable in extreme heat will take time, meaning they will bring scant relief to people sweltering today. Yeah, and maybe let them have some air, right? I mean, let them have some air. I mean, they need to cool off here, right? I mean, there's someone that says here, if I faint alone at home with my kids, who's going to call emergency services? At least here we can all watch each other when they all gather at a place in different schools, to try to help each other through the heat wave. So they're doing everything they can here to get through. And there's definitely a weather change. Everyone notices it. How long winters last and when they start and the temperatures. It's all, connected. You guys have that answer yet? Eric Clapton and George Harrison, what is their connection? What is the connection? And it's no, they didn't sing in something together, or no, they weren't on tour at the same time. It's nothing like that. But what is it? There's a connection, people. 100%. Does anybody know this music fact? Figured it out yet? Or did you Google it? Did you cheat on it and Google it? I hope not. Let it rain, rain. Wow, here we go. Here's a little story. Headline says, mistrial for man accused in lethal blaze in California. A federal judge declared a mistrial on Friday after a jury could not reach a verdict for a 30-year-old man charged with setting one of the most destructive fires in California history. The man, Jonathan Rinderknecht, had hiked up a trail above Los Angeles on New Year's Eve in 2024, and a fire began nearby. It smoldered for a week and then exploded into deadly Palisades blaze, which killed 12 and destroyed thousands of homes in and around the wealthy Pacific Palisades section of Los Angeles. Mr. Rinderknecht's mistrial, representing a stunning blow to many residents seeking resolution injustice more than a year after losing their homes in one of the most intensive arson investigations in California history. Bill Esseley, the top federal prosecutor in Los Angeles, said his office would retry Mr. Rinderknecht. The evidence is strong that Jonathan Rinderknecht is responsible, he said in a statement posted to social media. The judge ordered Mr. Rinderknecht held and set a new trial for October 19th. Prosecutors argued that Mr. Rinderknecht, who had been living alone in North Hollywood apartment and driving for Uber, had been resentful of the affluent. They said that he had developed an affinity for Luigi Mangione, who is charged with killing the chief executive of health insurance company. Mr. Mangione has pleaded not guilty. In the trial's closing arguments, Danby Kim, a prosecutor, told jurors in the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California that Mr. Rinderknecht had started the fire with a lighter as a societal revenge. Mr. Rinderknecht's lawyer, Stephen Haney, argued that New Year's Eve fireworks had set it off. When you apply common sense to the case, serious question remains, Mr. Haney said. The original fire scene was left unprotected for 12 days, destroying evidence. Mr. Haney said of 9,000 or so videos compiled in the investigation, none caught the ignition and no one identified the exact time the fire started, he said. When reasonable possibility exists, reasonable doubt follows, Mr. Haney said. Mr. Rinderknecht faced 3 arson-related felony charges, 1 count of destruction of property using fire, 1 count of arson affecting property used in interstate commerce, and 1 count of timber set afire. In the hours before the fire, prosecutor said he was angry that he hadn't secured the New Year's Eve plans. His Uber passengers testified that he ranted about capitalism that night. Mr. Rinderknecht dropped off his last passenger in Pacific Palisades and hiked up a trail near there where the fire began, prosecutors said. As the blaze grew, Mr. Rinderknecht called 911 more than a dozen times and filmed fire trucks as they tried to extinguish the blaze, prosecutors said. To the prosecution, the calls were an attempt to cover his tracks. But Mr. Haney, the defense lawyer, said it would be self-destructive and idiotic for an arsonist to call the authorities instead of leaving immediately. This week, after 13 hours of deliberations over 2 days, the jury told the court that it could not reach a verdict on any count. 10 jurors had voted to find Mr. Rinderknecht not guilty, while 2 voted to find him guilty, the foreman said in court. Mr. Haney told reporters that the lopsided split was a resounding indication of what the jury felt about the case. The jury was not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that he committed these crimes, and it wasn't even close, he added. The trial lasted nearly 3 weeks and ended after a dizzying final day. The jury started deliberating at 8 a.m. on Wednesday. On Thursday, jurors sent a note just after 2 p.m. saying they had reached a unanimous verdict. But as the courtroom filled, Judge Ann Huang's clerk handed her another note from the foreman. It said that there were jurors who were unwavering in their opposed positions, were unsure how to proceed, the note said. Judge Huang then sent the jury home for the day. On Friday, she found the jurors had been unequivocal that they could not reach a verdict, noting that the foreman had underlined the word cannot in his note. Mr. Rinderknecht, dressed in a black suit and black tie, hugged Mr. Haney, and the judge declared a mistrial. Sarana Bonik of Olympic, a juror, and her colleagues hustled to the elevator with Mr. Haney after court. There's not enough evidence, Ms. Bonik said in a brief interview. There's no way to pin it on him, and that's a lot to pin on a person, and my conscience would not allow that. So, did he do it? Maybe he did. Can they prove it 100%? No, they really can't. You have no video of him starting the fire. Did he do it? Yeah, he probably did. He's sick of people, the rich people up there. He's frustrated. Yeah, he probably did it. He probably did. Good chance that he did. Can you show something that he did it? That's all I would say is his attorney. He did it? Show me the video. Can you show me a video? You can't. Little wet whistle time. Whew. Little Pepsi Zero. Whew. You gotta have it. Gotta have it. All right. What are we gonna read here? Mm-mm-mm. There's a little section here where people write letters or whatever, you know? And let's take a look and see. This says A Woman's Age. If you feel invisible, I've got great news by Muriel Silkoff. Opinion guest essay from June 14th. Miss Skilloff's essay rings true. There's no need to be judged by sinking jowls and expanding waistlines. We women have much to offer. I went to graduate school when I started on Social Security and graduated the year I enrolled in Medicare. And to this day, I actively apply that education, a master's in bioethics, to my work with people who are dying. Approaching 80 this year is to be considered a gift. Cat calls and whistles? Not a chance. Our values change. To thrive, live without illness, contribute to society, travel, enjoy family and friends. These are all gifts. They supersede the past advantages of flowing locks and smoother skin. Again, Miro Silkoff writes, recently I canvassed a number of my middle-aged female friends and asked, if you could drink a potion and become 22 again, would you do it? A few waffled, but after some thought, not one of them said yes. Well, I would. I just turned 79, and unfashionable as it may be to admit it, I'd much rather be 29, or better yet, 19. I'd look better, feel better, be exempt from ageism, and by far most important, I'd have more years ahead of me. I felt the same way in my 50s. My old age had plenty of pleasures, and it definitely beats being dead, but I didn't consider myself garlanded with years, and yes, I'd rather be young again. Students and AI. There's a different one here. To the editor. It says, thanks to the AI student, cheating with AI is harder to detect. After asking AI to write your school assignments is like asking a robot to lift weights. The job gets done, but you accrue none of the benefits. Daniel Barrett. There's another one from Dennis Vellucci. I spent 40 years in secondary school classrooms and administration. Of course, students are using the available technology to do their homework. The whole concept of homework, except perhaps for reading assignments, is obsolete. Students need to do all the written work in the classroom with the teacher available for guidance. Yes, less material will be covered, but students will own their thoughts and expression. Education in general clings to outmoded techniques, procedures, and standards. It's time for educators to move into ways that are thoughtful, innovative, and practical. Dennis Vellucci from Queens. Let's see what we have here. Okay. Yeah, the AI thing with all this, the kids aren't learning anything. They don't learn anything. I mean, I had an encyclopedia, a page. Trying to do a report. I have a page. Back then, you had to have an older brother or sister who already did that assignment. Then you were good. What do we have here? A little business. What do you have for business today? All right, stocks and bonds. Oil prices resume decline after ship attack rattled markets. All right, let's read a little business. It's not long. Let's just see what's happening in the world of finance. You ready? Okay. Oil prices resumed decline after ship attack rattled markets. Oil prices fell on Friday amid signs that ships were continuing to move through the Strait of Hormuz, despite Iran attacking a container ship the day before. I thought we had an agreement. And I could tell you, I still paid $4.39 a gallon today, so doesn't seem much better. The price of Brent crude, the global benchmark for oil, fell 4.3% to $71.99 a barrel, just below levels not seen since before the war in Iran. Yeah, but why ain't the prices going down? West Texas Intermediate crude, the U.S. benchmark, fell to $69.23 a barrel, just above its prior level. Yet they're still going to charge us $4.25, $4.30 a gallon for as long as they can, and it's just price gouging. Because they already see, the thing is, they already bought this oil, so they're going to pay those prices until they have to replace it. And even after replacing it, you don't know how long it's been. You don't know. Trading has been jittery as some crude prices have nudged below pre-war levels, veering between sharp increases and declines, especially after Iran's military struck a container ship in the Strait on Thursday, a reminder of the risk that remains to ships passing through the crucial waterway. Still, traffic through the Strait, around which hundreds of ships are stranded, has picked up markedly in the past week. Negotiators for the United States and Iran have agreed to a 60-day period of talks while pledging to cease hostilities. U.S. gasoline prices fell again on Friday, sliding 2 cents to a national average of $3.90. Come to Buffalo. A gallon, according to AAA Motor Club. Gas prices don't move in a lockstep with crude, usually trailing increases or drops by a few days. The average price at the pump has risen more than 30% since the war began. Stock markets fell on Friday in a continuation of sharp volatility in technology shares. The S&P 500 inched lower, taking the index to a 2% drop for the week. Jittery investors continue to wrestle with whether the boom in artificial intelligence spending is all but done or just beginning. OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, is leaning toward holding off its initial public offering until next year, as the AI giant's executives shift away from their most aggressive aspirations. The newly listed shares of SpaceX have slid in recent sessions, which could dampen enthusiasm for other blockbuster offerings. Adding to investors' concerns, Apple said Thursday that it had raised prices on Macs and iPads, blaming rising costs for memory and storage chips caused by a surge in AI demand. The news played into broader concerns that AI data centers were generating inflationary pressures, analysts at Deutsche Bank wrote in a research note. In Asia, South Korea's KOSPI fell 5.8%, capping a bruising week. The benchmark index has become a proxy for investor sentiment about AI. The country's two chip giants, Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, have outsized influence in dictating the direction of the broader market. Shares of Samsung dropped 5%, while SK Hynix fell 8%. Japan's Nikkei 225 fell 5%, while shares in Taiwan fell 3%. Also, stock markets in Hong Kong and mainland China were lower. In Europe, the STOXX 600, a broad index that tracks the region's largest companies, fell 0.7%, ending the week flat to where it started. Well, good for them. All right, here. Hopefully we start to see those gas prices go down. We'll see. Watch. It's summertime, so you know what's going to happen? You're going to see those prices stay just where they are because people do a lot of driving, you're out cruising, you do some road trips, which I'm about to do in 2 weeks, and the barrel is going to be way down to where it was before the war, and we're still going to be paying war prices. Watch. They gouge you, people. They gouge you. Here's a different story. Talking about the Heat. Now that the World Cup is, going on, and by now I'm sure you know the other night, United States lost to Turkey on the very last play of extra time in like the 98th minute. They dropped that game. I know they didn't need to win, but there's no game that somebody doesn't want to win, right? So there's a illustration here. It says Mexican players during their 2-1 win over Ireland on June 24th, 1994 in Orlando, Florida. The temperatures on the field was about 110 degrees, and it hit the Irish team especially hard. In one of the most scalding World Cup games, Mexico outlasted Ireland in 1994. And there's all kinds of illustrations from that day. It even said people were passing out in the crowd. Yeah, it's like the Bills, and they always have to go play Miami in the beginning of the season. We never get a game in Miami later. We always have to go when it's summertime heat and on the field it's 105 degrees. And that's what happened here. The soccer game was over 110 degrees on the field. And they played, and soccer games are longer. I don't know if you know, but each half is 45 minutes plus extra time. So now for the situation, and this is the first time I've seen this because I watch like Premier League and a lot of leagues, and they don't do this. Because of like one of these heat games and some of the heat you might get in like California and all these different locations that they're doing it this year. This year, FIFA introduced mandatory 3-minute hydration breaks for players, one in each half of every match. Despite some criticism that such breaks interrupt the flow of the game, many stadiums now have roofs or shade coverings, and no match is being played in Miami area before 6 p.m. And so sorry, European viewers. Miguel Herrera, who coached the Mexican team in 2014 World Cup in Brazil, said that the team doctors now measure players' hydration levels for a few days before the match and give them fluids to be in top shape at kickoff. Teams also travel earlier to cities where they'll be playing so they can get acclimated, said Herrera. Now with the broadcaster Televisa Univision. Years after the 1994 World Cup, Suarez ran into Fernando Herrera, who had played in the tournament for Spain, and Carlo Ancelotti, who had been an assistant coach for Italy and now coaches the Brazil squad. What did they discuss? How hot the American World Cup had been, Suarez said. Herrera said it was so hot in Dallas. Suarez said it was so hot in Washington. I said, and none of you can play, and none of you had to play in Orlando. So yes, it's you're going to get some temperatures, but I can't believe I played a lot of soccer in my life when I was a kid, and even as a young adult, and I can't imagine playing in 110 degree weather on the field. Looks like the Sabres lost Alex Tuck. Looks like he's going to the Washington Capitals. I know he didn't do much in the playoffs, but he had like 60 points during the season. And he's got to be a big reason why we came back from, worst to first. And there's a huge article about the Mets. They fired their manager, but there is plenty of blame to go around. They're a disaster. There's a disaster. What do we have here? You know, passed on was David Clayton Thomas, 84, lead singer of Blood, Sweat, and Tears. There's a dies. There's a bunch of illustrations of him with the band, him singing in 2011. He rejoined the group in the early 80s and spent another 2 decades performing with them. And here's a picture, a real cool picture. Louis Armstrong with Clayton Thomas. The Grammy Award for the Album of the Year when Blood, Sweat, and Tears won in 1970. Wow. They were forced to be the first major rock band to perform behind the Iron Curtain. There's a giant article here about him and Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Says he moved to Manhattan in 1966 without a work visa and performed at small clubs and house parties, activities that later caused legal problems. He developed a following for his thunder vocals, and the folk singer Judy Collins, he said, helped get him recruited to BS&T as a replacement for the lead singer Al Cooper, who was also the keyboardist and principal songwriter who had left the group after it released its first album. Mr. Clayton Thomas' marriages to Nancy Hewitt, Terry Nuzna, Jennifer Goodson, and Suzanne Warren ended in divorce. His survivors include a daughter from his first marriage, Christine Graham, and a daughter from his third marriage, Ashley Clayton Thomas. In a memoir, he acknowledged that his personal relationships had suffered because he had been so consumed with musical fame. In my mind, he wrote, it was the only thing standing between me and where I came from, and I was not going back. David Clayton Thomas was a homeless Toronto runaway who learned how to play guitar in prison and went on to become the lead singer of Blood, Sweat, and Tears, You Made Me So Very Happy, Spinning Wheel. He died at 84 years old. And those are some good songs, and that was a good band with the horns and everything. Amazing. Just amazing. Listen to some Blood, Sweat, and Tears today, huh? Those horns are awesome. Yep. So now they opened up the new Bills Stadium too. Did the ribbon cutting. That was cool. It looks like a very nice stadium, which, let's be real, if I gave you $2 billion to do something, I am pretty sure it's going to be fantastic. At least it better be. Right? There's a story here. It says, after 50 years, Eaton Pat's father hopes torturous chapter will finally close. There's an illustration of a woman and a kid there. A photograph of Julie and Eaton Patz provided by Stanley Patz. Mr. Patz died in 2020. Up until this week, Stanley Patz was preparing for another trial. Nearly 50 years after his 6-year-old son, Eaton, vanished from the streets of Manhattan, the man who had been convicted in the disappearance. Pedro Hernandez seemed likely to return to court. He was found guilty in 17 of kidnapping and murdering Eaton, but an appeals court overturned the conviction last July. For Mr. Patz, that meant at 84 he would need to return to New York City from his current home in Honolulu. He might have had to move in with his older brother to attend each day of the new trial, and he would have to do it all without his wife, Julie, who died in 2020. Miss Patz had died in 2020. He worried about how, for the third time, he would spend weeks sitting in Manhattan courtroom, recalling May 25th, 1979. Today, Eaton, carrying an elephant print lunch bag, and walked by himself to a school bus stop down the block from their Soho apartment. It was his first time making the trip on his own. Oh, that's absolutely horrible. He never returned. Eaton's body was never found, and in 2001, he was declared legally dead. Oh, my God. The first day he was going by himself. Mr. Patz said was preparing to relive that memory. Then on Monday, the Supreme Court reversed the lower court's decision and reinstated Mr. Hernandez's conviction. I'm hoping that this is going to be the end, Mr. Patz said in a rare phone interview this week, and I will once again be able to enjoy Nominee here in Honolulu, so far away from New York City. Mr. Patz moved to Manhattan in 1963 and still considers himself a New Yorker. It was where he married his wife in 1965. It was where he started his family and bought an unfurnished loft on Prince Street in Soho in 1971. But the city is also where he lost Eaton. The Patzes were in the spotlight from the moment their son disappeared. The photo of Eaton grinning was prominently featured on milk cartons and plastered everywhere in the city. Eaton's family and the police desperately raced to find him. Each anniversary development a news cycle that placed Eaton's family back in the public eye reminded them of their loss. It's something I dread, Mr. Patz said. When Mr. Hernandez was arrested in connection with Eaton's disappearance in 2012, more than a decade after the child was declared legally dead, Mr. Patz's first reaction was skepticism. Mr. Patz said he was told that Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. to convince me. His answer was, if you sit through the trial and listen to the evidence, you'll be convinced, Mr. Patz recalled. Mr. Hernandez, a former BOGA clerk, was living in New Jersey when a relative told the authorities his suspicion that he had killed Eaton. But no scientific evidence linked Mr. Hernandez to the crime, and his confession, initially obtained after 7 hours of questioning by the police, was center of prosecution's case. But Mr. Hernandez later withdrew the confession. Oh, great. Mr. Hernandez's first trial in 2015 ended with a hung jury. The lone holdout said his confession seemed coerced. 2 years later, a Manhattan jury convicted Mr. Hernandez on the 9th day of what jury foreman later said were difficult deliberations. After observing every day of both trials, Mr. Patz, who earlier had thoughts that Mr. Ramos was the killer, said he finally felt that his family had gotten answers to what happened to their son. He said the videos of Hernandez's confessions were very convincing and that were motivated by the decades of guilt over the killing. He added that he did not believe Mr. Hernandez had a low IQ, pointing to the teaching himself English and how to play the accordion. Pedro Hernandez is guilty, Mr. Patz said. Pedro Hernandez is the man who killed Eaton. The Supreme Court's decision gave him a sense of relief, he said. For now, I hope this will never, ever come up again, Mr. Patz said. Of course not. That's a horrible story. The first day, you let the kid catch the bus by himself. The first day? Not that it'd be better if it was the third day. I'm just trying to say, you give the kid an inch to try to do something on his own, and that happens. It's absolutely horrible. Okay. What do we have here? Some, they come up. I don't know who comes up with these cooking things for the Times, but it's weird. Like these are things that you would never have really thought of. Here's a dish. cold noodles with tomatoes. There is a direct correlation between the temperature outside and my impulse to make this refreshing Eric Kim dish. I almost always add halved hard-boiled eggs to the finished dish for some protein, boiling them for 8 minutes before I cook the noodles. 20 minutes to do this by Eric Kim, 4 to 6 servings. And there's a picture of it. Looks okay. You got to try anything once, right? Let's take a look. What do you need here? We need 2 pints of ripe cherry tomatoes, halved, 2 teaspoons kosher salt, diamond crystal, and 12 to 14 ounces Simonian salmon capellini or other thin wheat noodle, 1/4 cup of rice vinegar, 2 tablespoons soy sauce, 2 tablespoons granulated sugar, 1 large garlic clove finely grated, half a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, a half a teaspoon of toasted sesame oil, 2 cups of oil-filtered water, 1 tablespoon toasted sesame seeds, 2 radishes thinly sliced, 2 scallions thinly sliced, and an angle. Look, people, you're going to do the scallions. You're going to thinly slice them. We want them at an angle, okay? 2 cups crushed or cubed ice. What are we doing with all this? I'm going to tell you, all right? Give me a second. I'm going to tell you. Number 1, in a large bowl, toss together the tomatoes and salt. Let's sit until juicy that'd be about 10 minutes. Number 2, meanwhile, bring a large pot of water to a boil. Cook the noodles according to package instructions. Drain and rinse under cold water and set them aside. Just set them aside, people. Then, number 3, we're going to add the vinegar, soy sauce, sugar, garlic, mustard, and sesame oil to the tomatoes. Toss with a spoon until well combined. Stir the filtered water into the tomatoes and sprinkle the surface of the broth with the same sesame seeds, radishes, and scallions. And number 4, right before serving, add the ice to the broth. Divide the noodles among bowls and ladle in the broth and any unmelted ice, making sure each serving gets a nice sprinkling of tomatoes, radishes, scallions, and sesame seeds. That's right. Okay? Other dishes here. Smashed chicken meatballs with soya and charred corn. All right? Fish and lentils with sauce ROF. Fish lentils with sauce ROF. I don't never heard of ROF. I'm not sure how that's going to end up. How about spicy sardine pasta with leeks and lemon? I got to say, that's probably not happening. I'm just going to say I'm not really big on the sardine pasta. I like the pasta. You know, you could put a little eggplant in there or whatever, a little meatball, some neck bones, some sausage. Beautiful. Some some garlic and some Italian spices, and some grated cheese, a pecorino on there, and some bread. Beautiful. Oil to dip it, you can see just oil. You got to dip that bread. Your hands got to have something to do. You know what I mean? You sit down, you're Italian, you got to have something to do. I need some bread. I need food. I need a meatball. If there's one thing I need not to be in the vicinity of me whatsoever, guess what? It's sardine. With leeks. Whatever's leaking. I don't want leeks and lemon in my pasta. Do me a favor. Don't leak no leeks or lemon in my pasta. I'd appreciate it if that wasn't happening. All right, people. So I played a little Eric Clapton, and I said to you folks, tell me, what is the connection of George Harrison and Eric Clapton? No, it's not that one of them wrote another song for another, and it could be. If you dig in, maybe they did write songs for each other. Maybe they have some kind of musical connection. That's not what I'm looking for here. There's a deeper connection of the two of them. And could anybody tell me what it is? I'll wait. Go ahead, tell me. No one has the answer? All right, I'll give you the answer. Did you know who Pattie Boyd is? I'm going to tell you who Pattie Boyd is. Many of you may know the songs from Eric Clapton, Layla and Wonderful Tonight, which he wrote about Pattie Boyd. Okay? Pattie Boyd and Eric Clapton were married on March 27th, 1979 in good old Tucson, Arizona. All right? Why was this relationship so famous? Because Pattie Boyd was married to George Harrison, Eric Clapton's best friend. Before she was married to Eric Clapton, she was married to George Harrison. But after years of growing apart and Harrison's infidelities, she left Harrison in 1974, and their divorce was final in 1977. And by 1979, she married Eric Clapton. And the funny part is, when they got married, George Harrison, Paul McCartney, and Ringo Starr all attended the reception to celebrate with the couple. And yes, this marriage also ended in 1989 in divorce. She said Clapton's severe alcoholism and repeated affairs were the primary reasons for the split. So there you go. That is the connection. George Harrison and Eric Clapton were best friends, and one was married to her, and the other one married her, and wrote a couple songs that everyone knows, Layla and Wonderful Tonight. There was no Layla. Layla came from, I believe, like a movie or show or something that Eric Clapton had liked. He wrote a song, but it's all connected to Pattie Boyd, and Wonderful Tonight is as well. So there is your little love triangle with them, with the three of them. Did anybody know that? I was wondering. All right, so here we go. Another week has ended of New York Times. And again, I want to thank everybody from the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service for a wonderful party yesterday and the opportunity to get to meet so many of the volunteers last night. That was wonderful. I met some very nice people and spent time with people that you don't normally get to, speak to or see. And that's always nice to see who shares your interest and does the same thing you do. So you have been listening to a reading of the New York Times for Saturday, June 27th, 2026. For more information, call 716-821-5555. Your reader has been Joe Gibbs. I thoroughly enjoyed doing this with you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend and a great upcoming week. The 4th of July is upon us. Nice weather. Enjoy. Gibbs out.